Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Q&A with Sridhar Kunde, who is the Deputy Technical Editor of BB. And I, Nilofer Khan, features writer for Better Photography magazine, will be your host for this series. In these set of videos, we will be looking at questions sent to us by you to cover techniques, jargon, and camera operations. Let's look at the first question. It comes from Rajat Taneja from New Delhi. He asks, how can I determine the sweet spot of my lens?
First of all, you need to understand what is the sweet spot for a particular lens or at a particular focal length in case the lens is a zoom lens. Uh, the overall sharpness of the lens from the center of the frame to the edges is not constant or is not the same for all the apertures which are available to use. Say for f2.8 lens, the lens might be sharper at f2.8 or lens might be sharper at even 5.6. But to get the correct idea at what aperture your lens is performing at is the highest level of sharpness, you can mount the camera on the tripod, take a brick wall which is parallel to the plane of the your camera sensor, and put the camera on the aperture priority mode and start shooting from the your lowest to the highest aperture. Say like if your lens, consider the lens to be a 50 mm 1.8 lens, start shooting at 1.8 with f1.8, then 2.8, f4, 5.6, f8, f11, f16, and f22. Uh, Open all these images into your Photoshop and compare it side by side and try to gauge the sharpness from the center of the frame to the edges, all the four edges. At one particular aperture, it might, in this case, I give for an example, it might be f8. So at f8, the sharpness at the center as well as all the four corners are the highest if when you compare all the other images. So for that particular lens, as I mentioned, the 50 mm lens, the sweet spot of this particular lens is at f8. So it is always better to shoot one stop below or one stop above and at f8 to get the optimal or the maximum sharpness at all the times.
Why did you say F? Like one stop below or above? Like, as in, what is the logic for that?
See, you can compare the images again after coming back in the post process and see what depth of field you prefer. If you are preferring the depth of field at f8, which is the peak or the sweet spot what we have earlier determined, or slightly one stop above, that is f11 or f5.6. But usually you should always shoot at f8 once you determine the sweet spot.
Okay, all right. Our next question comes from Priyanka Mehta from Bombay. She's asking, what is the hyperfocal distance and how does it help?
See, hyperfocal distance is a distance for the particular lens. When you say, for example, if you want to take a landscape with a wide angle lens and from the foreground to the background, everything you want in the sharpest or at least presumably sharpest focused. So for the particular aperture, there is a distance scale which is available on the hyperfocal distance scale will be available on older lenses. For newer lenses, it is difficult to find this kind of a scale on the lens barrel usually. But still Sigma lens or some other lenses, they have a very small scale, the glass window on the barrel where you can see the hyperfocal distance. See the hyperfocal distance in older lenses, you will find a scale where the lines are converging on the barrel. And once you adjust the aperture in older lenses, the aperture was available on the lens barrel. So it is a mechanical thing. So at f8, if you focus, say, from 3 feet and go with the scale which is available on the lens, you can say the hyperfocal distance will be from, say, that 5 feet to close to infinity. So everything from 5 feet to infinity will be in focus. But with the different lenses and different aperture, the this distance will vary. Even the zoom lenses, it will vary. So you need to keep in mind, if you change the focal length while shooting in the field, the hyperfocal distance will be thrown out of the calculation if you have decided something that this is the hyperfocal distance for at the it is wide angle end of the lens. So you need to keep on gauging the hyperfocal distance at a different focal lengths also. See, this will be particularly useful when you want to take a picture without noticing in the public. So you can adjust the pre-focus, I can say that, while going on to the field, to the hyperfocal distance, say from for the particular lens of 28 mm at f8. If the hyperfocal distance is from, say, 5 feet to infinity, you can adjust the aperture at f8, and keep that in mind, that your camera to subject distance will be always lie in that zone, that is above 5 feet. So without focusing in the field or in the crowd, you can keep on shooting and you can get reasonably sharp images all the time.
How, let's say, as you said, in some lenses you don't have the distance scale. In situations like this, how does one determine what will be the focus length in that sense?
See, there are electronic tables available online. That is number one. That is the safest bet. Otherwise, you need to do that in practical. Actually, you practically keep on shooting at different apertures and try to gauge what is the hyperfocal distance for these particular apertures for your lens.
Okay, okay, all right. So our third question today is by Sajida Sayed from Lucknow. She says, I use my cell phone to photograph a lot. There have been times when my images appear softer around the corners while the center is quite sharp. What is the reason behind that?
See, there are 2-3 different reasons I can uh, tell you. But the first, it might be the lens quality, first of all, on the mobile phones, where the center of the image, the characteristic of the lens is such the way adjusted that the center will be in focus and the edges will be slightly out of focus, because there is no aperture control which is built into the mobile phone cameras. The other thing, it might be the artifacts, or the, I can say, the JPEG compression, which takes place while rendering the image. So you need to understand the workflow, how it. So the image sensor captures the image onto the sensor. It transfers the data to the buffer, and the CPU will then render the actual image. So what kind of processing power the processor has, it will have the effect on the final image. If the processor is fast and powerful enough, you won't be facing this kind of a problem. But if the algorithm written and the processor in your phone is slightly weak, then you will land up in the problem what you are describing in your question.
Is there a way to like correct it if it's the latter one? Like,
Uh, See, it is very difficult to correct it if it is the latter one, but only workaround for this is if you have got a phone that will allow you to shoot in the raw mode. I will suggest you to shoot the picture always in raw mode and then post-process it outside the camera or outside the cell phone to get better results than what the camera is offering.
okay. And our last question for the day comes from Kunal Patil in Jaipur. He says, what kinds of light are available to shoot videos with the help of DSLRs or mirrorless cameras? Somebody had asked a similar question previously. Can you please elaborate on this?
See, as I have mentioned in my earlier question answer series, there are two types of lights available. One, you can mount it on the camera, and other one, you can mount it on the tripod, or you can hang it from a ceiling or something. So it is exactly the same principle or the same concept what you see in on-camera flash gun and off-camera flash gun. Here, one need to understand that the external light source which you are using is a continuous light source, and it is there are two things, two adjustments are available on mid to semi-professional or the professional external light source which are available, which will allow you to shoot the videos. The main control is the brightness or the intensity of the light, and the second most important question is the color balance. So you can adjust the color balance from normal daylight to tungsten, as well as you can select it in between. So you can add equal amount of tungsten as well as equal amount of daylight. So these are the variations what the external continuous light source for the DSLR videos or the mirrorless camera videos does offer you.
Oh, all right. So that's all what we have for today. Thank you for joining us, everyone, and thank you, Sridhar, so much. Please, guys, don't forget to send in your questions on Facebook and Instagram, and use the hashtag Q&A with Sridhar Pinte. We will see you next Friday.
Thank you.